The man broke the chocolate in half. Then clip it to your toes so you can get a foot massage from your dog. This man is a cowboy. He's married to a biologist. He's been studying dung beetles all day so they won't do any housework. He broke the family toaster all the time. The walls are covered with his exploits. The couple had 2 talented sons. Kelba, the eldest son, was publishing academic papers at the age of 12. Heard a talk outside about perpetual motion machines. He went home and started his research. But the younger son was completely different. I've been playing with guns since I was a kid. It is clear that the father prefers the younger son. But until this day, the brothers were playing in the barn. The shotgun went off accidentally. The younger son died on the spot. Kyle has lived with remorse and regret ever since. My father grew quiet. The mother completely buried herself in the work. They're all hiding their grief in their own way. But the more that happened, the more Kyle blamed himself. He wanted to help his mother with the experiment. The result was an impatient rebuke from the mother. He's trying to make it up to his father, so he followed his brother's example, went hunting with my father. On the way they met a wounded goat. Kyle was trying to help him out, but then suddenly a poisonous snake came out of the side. He was too frightened to move, but at once he felt that death was not terrible, because then I can go with the pity. His father eventually shoots Kyle to save him. Then he went up and patted him on the back. But Kyle knew his father wasn't trying to comfort him. I was trying to keep him away from me, before we get into more trouble. One day Kyle gets a phone call. It's the president of the Smithsonian. Said he won a grand prize for his perpetual motion machine. So I wanted to invite him to give the acceptance speech. Kyle suddenly realized, if this family doesn't have parents of their own, maybe life will be better. It was evening. He quietly packed his bags and left home. But by the time he got to the station, only to find that the lights had turned yellow. That means the driver won't stop at all. Kyle glanced at his watch, found that time was running out, so he quickly climbed up the ladder and painted the lights red. Sure enough, the train driver saw the red light and began to slow down. Kyle hides quickly. Wait for the train to stop. He pulled out all the stops. The luggage was finally carried up, but just as he was about to get on the bus, he was suddenly spotted by a patrolman. Kyle scrambled onto a conveyor belt. Then he jumped off the train. Good thing it's all soft hay down there. He's safe and sound, and so Kyle began his journey away from home. A few days later, the train stopped. The security inspector began to check the cars one by one. Kyle took the opportunity to hide in the RV. And don't forget to lock the door securely. The security officer found the door wouldn't open. Just lean over the window and look in. I only saw 3 ads. Kyle was holding his breath for air. Even if the snot gets in your mouth right away, he couldn't even blink. With his excellent acting skills, he finally got away with it. Soon the train moved on. Even though Kyle has been able to evade capture after capture, can't avoid the loneliness that comes with it. After all, he's only 10 years old. The day after running away from home, Kyle ate up all the food. Even if my stomach is growling, I can only bear it. In the evening, the train passed through a station. The roadside stalls made him happy. Kyle quietly opened the door as the train came to a stop. All I can think about is that delicious hot dog. In the end, hunger overcame all. He snuck out to get something to eat. Did not expect. This time, he was spotted by an old maintenance man. The maintenance guy took Kyle home. Then asked him where he's going. Kyle said he was going to the university accepted the award, but if I don't eat something, I'm afraid I'll starve to death on the way. Finally, the repairman gave him a few pennies. Kyle took the money and went to buy hot dogs. I just ran into 2 cops. They're holding a missing persons notice for Kyle. Kyle goes into hiding. But after the police leave, the stall owner has recognized him. Kyle lied and said it wasn't him. The boss didn't bother. Back in the car, Kyle finally gets his meal, but the stomach is filled with empty inside. He misses his parents very much. I dare not get out of bed at night, worried that a pumpkin monster might eat him down there. Just a 10-year-old boy, you ran all it from home. A few days later, the train finally reached its destination. Kyle came to the road looking for a ride. He had good luck this time. The driver warmly beckoned him to the car. I took a picture with him. Then Kyle noticed the car was covered in photos. The driver said it was a special hobby. Not long after, Kyle finally arrived at the world-famous Smithsonian Institution. But people here don't believe it. The boy in front of me turned out to be the genius inventor. Until he came up with a list of physics formulas. There are also the design principles of perpetual motion machines. That's how the principal got it. Then Kyle was taken in for various tests. And the perpetual motion machine he designed, it has also been exhibited in various places. Everyone gathered around him to congratulate him, but Kyle saw it clearly. These smiles are full of hypocrisy. Then Kyle was invited to the podium, but he didn't say anything in his acceptance speech. I told you a story about the death of my brother and his own insecurities and regrets. The audience applauded loudly after the speech was finished, and the invited mother on the second floor. I've been crying my eyes out. A few days later, Kyle was a man. The famous principal took him to various interviews. Think of him as a cash cow. He even claimed to have witnessed his brother's death to get more exposure. Gradually Kyle realized, the world is more complicated than he ever imagined. He wanted to call his parents at home, but there was no answer. One day Kyle is taken to a variety show. The show tricked him into bringing in his mother. Kyle watched his mother prevaricate. Finally said that I was wrong, but mother said, is it right to give a gun to a child as a toy? Is it right to let 2 kids play with guns alone? His mother told Kyle it wasn't his fault. It's no one's fault. Because it was just an accident. Mother hugged Kyle tightly. Then he left the studio with him. But just as they were about to leave, the principal came out in a huff. calling Kyle a treacherous liar. I was slapped by my mother. The two continue to walk and are suddenly stopped by the host. He said the show wasn't finished. No one can leave. Luckily, his father showed up just in time and punched him in the face. Then he crouched down, gestured his son to climb onto his shoulders. This is the moment when all the barriers between father and son disappear. Kyle took off his father's hat and put it on his own head. The three of them walked slowly forward. Seems to have found the original harmonious and beautiful happiness. We all have to deal with grief in our lives. A past you're trying so hard to escape. Even if it is terrible again, it will eventually face. It's like the trucker used to say to Kyle. I don't know what you're looking for, but never forget. The road is under our own feet.